How is it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hip Drop Podcast. Super Bowl 60 is set. The matchup is set. It is a rematch of one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time. The New England Patriots, yes, you as much as you hate it, they are back in the Super Bowl for the first time since 2018, since Tom Brady and Bill Belichick left. They represent the AFC, and on the NFC side, it is the Seattle Seahawks, slinging Sam Darnold, and the Seattle Seahawks won the NFC's top seed. Will go to their division rival stadium and hope to win a Super Bowl in it 12 days from now. A team that Lucas and I were very, very wrong about in the preseason and the offseason. We'll discuss that later on. We'll discuss them proving us wrong, Sam Darnold proving us wrong. So two teams, Lucas, that did not have a ton of expectations. I did not pick either one of these two teams to even make the playoffs before the season, and shows how weird this season's been. They both go 14-3, and here they are facing off in the Super Bowl. For the first time since 2012, it will be two coaches, both head coaches and both starting quarterbacks, making their Super Bowl debuts. Mike Vrabel and Mike McDonald, both coaching in their first Super Bowls as well, and obviously Sam Darnold and Drake May making their debuts in the big game as well. So it is set. That will be next Sunday on NBC, February 8th. The Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots in Santa Clara for Super Bowl 60 for all the marbles. And we'll talk about the AFC and NFC championship games from a couple days ago. The Patriots beating the Broncos 10-7, and the Seahawks winning another thriller in the trilogy against the Los Angeles Rams 31-27. Before we get into all that, Lucas, how you doing? How you feeling?
I am feeling pretty well. I mean, unfortunately, my prediction of betting on the Rams for the last 2 months has fallen flat, but
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna
it
get.
happens. We'll talk about
I'm
them,
glad
but
the Broncos lost. I have that. So
yes, that's one things that Chiefs fans can take solace in is that the Broncos in the Chiefs season from hell did not go to the Super Bowl. Now, in fairness to the Broncos, they really lost this game when Bo Nix was out. It's just unfortunate for that because I think they would have a real, given how New England played offensively, I think if Nix played, they would have had a real chance to win, but it just wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. So we'll start with that game. We'll start with the AFC game because that was obviously the worst of the two games. The Patriots win 10-7 in the lowest scoring conference championship game really in my lifetime that I can remember. Just one touchdown apiece scored in this game. The first one by Denver on their second drive. Jarrett Stidham threw a pass off play action to Cortland Sutton for a touchdown, and that was as good as it got for the Broncos offensively. And the Patriots' only touchdown came off of Broncos turnover. Jarrett Stidham fumbling the ball really wasn't a forced fumble. He just let the ball go, tried to throw it away. New England recovers, and Drake May scampers in for a touchdown run. They had a field goal and on the first drive of the second half, and that was all they needed to win this football game. As this game was basically played in Antarctica, it was a complete snow globe. Denver just couldn't get their offense going. New England was very conservative, playing with the lead. Both teams each missed two field goals. It was a very, very, very ugly conference championship game. But the Patriots prevail. They are back in the Super Bowl. The Patriots, after being in the doormat for the last handful of years, I mean, they go 4-13 each of the last 2 years. They move on from Bill Belichick. They completely bottom out last year with Gerard Mayo as their head coach, and their offseason was exceptional. Of course, they hire Mike Vrabel. Drake May gets another year of development. They bring in Stephon Diggs. They bring in Mac Hollins. They draft Kyle Williams. They make a bunch of additions defensively, like Milton Williams and Carlton Davis and Robert Spillane, and Caleb Von Chason, who was a bust at previous stops, really has found a home here in New England. And the Patriots are back, just like Lucas and I predicted. Drake May is now the second youngest quarterback to start a Super Bowl. Only Dan Marino was younger in 1984. So good for Drake May, good for Mike Vrabel. Really, this game, not a lot to take away of. I mean, the weather really, I think, had a profound impact on it. I thought Jarrett Stidham started the game fairly well, but really turned into a pumpkin. I think that fumble was really kind of a turning point. The Broncos did drop some catchable passes. Cortland Sutton had a pass that he should have caught. Little Jordan Humphrey had a pass that he should have caught. But the backbreaker was down 10-7. Denver's driving, and Stidham throws an absolutely horrible pass that is picked off by Christian Gonzalez. And then Drake May steals the game with a designed run on 3rd and 6 to send New England to Santa Clara. So, Lucas, 9 of the last 10 Super Bowls have been represented. The AFC representative in 9 of the last 10 Super Bowls, better way to put it, has been either the Patriots or the Chiefs. The Bengals, the other one. So the evil empire might be back. So all the Chiefs haters who are like, thank God we get some parity. Well, not so fast. Here come the Patriots back from the dead, and they are one win away from winning the most Super Bowls any franchise has ever won.
It's kind of insane how the longer time goes on, the more things stay the same, or whatever the saying is. But
Yeah,
good on New England. I mean, they got the two most important things you need right to build a Super Bowl contender. You need to have a great head coach. You need to have a great quarterback. They have that. I don't know if Drake May has been the strongest or been the best quarterback this year. He might win MVP. He wouldn't get my vote, but there's no question he was a top 2 MVP candidate. Mike Vrabel
yeah,
had no business being fired from Tennessee. He was fired because he lost a power struggle because of an inexperienced owner making inexperienced owner decisions. And New England's the benefactor. The Patriots, they won. I mean, it's Patriots fans will whine saying, "Oh, our schedule wasn't that soft." They had a pretty favorable schedule in the regular season. There's no question about it. But they're still a good team. Their playoff field or their playoff path was, I wouldn't say easy, but there's no question it was a favorable draw. I understand they had to win 3
yeah.
games, but they had to play the Chargers, who did nothing on offense. The Patriots have a good defense, better than it gets credit for, but at the same time, they played a quarterback who shat his pants and an offense that just could not get a good play call to save its life. And then Houston, CJ Stroud played even worse than Justin Herbert, and then they played Jared Stidham. There's no way to verify this. I would be shocked if there was a team who went to the Super Bowl whose 3 playoff opponents before reaching the Super Bowl were played a combined worse than Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, and Jared Stidham. Again, not going to take anything away from New England, but if the Chiefs would have had that quarterback draw, they would have easily gone to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
Maybe even the Bills as well. So it's easy to say Bo Nix would have won, but he didn't play. He didn't. So sorry,
It is what it is.
bad. Credit to New England. We'll see if they stick around next year. I don't know if I'll pick them to beat the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, but at the same time, they're a great team. They have the 2 most important pieces right. If Will Campbell can take a step forward next year, they have quarterback, head coach, and left tackle all figured out, which are arguably the 3 hardest positions to find a star for, maybe other than pass rusher and wide receiver 1. But credit to New England. They belong in the Super Bowl, and we'll see if they can hold up. The allegations of a soft schedule really going to be proven either true or incorrect in this game, obviously speaking, but we'll see. They have to play the game for a reason.
Yeah, and of course we'll get to our picks next week, and we might have a guest on next week to make those picks. But I think I've seen a lot of discourse that this Patriots team is, they're the worst team I've ever seen make the Super Bowl, or one of the worst Super Bowl teams of all time. And I disagree with that statement. This is a team, say the schedule all you want. They went 14-3. They were the number 2 seed. I mean, I think they're significantly better than, say, the Bengals, who went the 2021 Bengals. I think they're a better team than even a team that Ravens team that won with Joe Flacco in 2012, because the defense was kind of on their last legs. A team they went 10-6 in the regular season. They got hot at the right time. I think New England, I thought them and the Bills were the 2 best teams in the AFC throughout the year. And look, Denver took the Bills out, and unfortunately Denver's quarterback, Bo Nix, was out in the process, and New England was the benefactors of it. And 10 points was enough to win. That's not often the case, but this is a team that Drake May was exceptional in the regular season. Now, the playoffs have been a different story. Drake May, really in the playoffs, I do not think has played well at all. He's had some nice plays. He's had some nice moments. He's made some really nice plays with his legs, which is a big part of his game. But if they want to win the Super Bowl, he's going to need to play a lot better than he has in the conference playoffs. He was not very good against the Chargers, but they won because Justin Herbert was even worse. The Houston game, he had 2 lost fumbles. He threw an interception. Now, granted, the interception was a Hail Mary, so you can't really hold that against him. He also fumbled. He fumbled 4 times in that game. He only lost 2 of them, but CJ Stroud completely crapped all over himself, and he benefited from that. And this time, you got Jarrett Stidham in a snowstorm. So Drake May is going to need to play to his regular season standard in this game. It's not going to be easy against Mike McDonald and that defense. We'll get to the Seahawks here later on. But I think this Patriots team, I think this roster is still has a ways to go, particularly on offense. But defensively, they have a lot of pieces. Christian Gonzalez is one of the 3 best corners in the league, in my opinion. They have other secondary pieces like Jalen Hawkins and Craig Woodson and Carlton Davis. Spillane's a nice linebacker. They have a really good front with Williams and Barmore on the inside. Tonga's a nice player on the inside. Like, this is a team that has some really good football players. Like, in a weak AFC, they were the most consistent team in the conference throughout the year. And I think they're a deserving Super Bowl participant. I don't think they're fluky like the Bengals were in 2021, or this is before our lifetime, like the Chargers were in 1994. The Patriots are a legitimate team with a legitimate coach and a legitimate defense. And when he's at his best, a legitimate quarterback, a top 6 or 7, quarterback in the league, in my opinion, and Drake May. Has had his struggles in the playoffs, but this is a team that really has turned some stuff around. Elliott Wolf, their general manager, deserves a ton of credit for getting this team back to glory, because this is a team that was really, really at rock bottom for a couple years, back-to-back 4-win seasons, and in one off season, they're conference champions. So kudos to the Patriots. I mean, Lucas, as fans of a team that is a dynasty by all accounts of the word, I don't dislike the Patriots as much as some other people. This might be hell on earth for Bills fans. I mean, you had a free reign of the AFC East for 5 years, and you couldn't get past the Chiefs ever in the playoffs. You couldn't get over the hump. And then the one year the Chiefs are bad, hopefully it's the only one year, you have a golden opportunity, and the team that makes the Super Bowl is your division rival. So it's unfortunate for them, but kudos to New England and Drake May. And it'll be interesting to see how they play on the biggest stage, because a lot of these guys haven't been on the stage before. So I'm curious to see how they play under the Super Bowl spotlight.
Yeah, I don't think they're a fraud or like completely
No.
undeserving team to go to the Super Bowl.
I mean, they're a
I think they
14
were
win
the
team. I mean, say the schedule all you want. I mean, the
Yeah,
Bengals in 2021
exactly,
went
like
10-7 in the regular season, were the 4 seed. Like, this Patriots team, I do think I'd argue they and the Bills were the top 2 teams in the conference. In New England, I'd say was better. I mean, they had a better record. They beat the Bills head to head. They could have beat them twice. They were just the most consistent team in a weak conference, and they took advantage, and they deserve credit for it.
yeah, I think maybe instead of 14-3, they were like a 12-5 team masquerading as
Yeah.
14-3 because of an easy schedule. But they're still deserving. Like I said, they have the coach and quarterback. They have I think, a defense that's really stepped up to the plate this postseason. So give them credit. I still don't think they're very talented top to bottom. I think they're a team that has a lot of spread out talent, but not a lot of like high end difference makers. Like, they have like enough. Like, they have
Yeah.
May. They have Stephon Diggs is capable of having a one game where he's elite. Travion Henderson is a game breaker. He's not a complete player yet, but like he's capable of ripping off a 50-yard run at any time. And then Christian Gonzalez, though he got beat up a little bit in the Denver game, he's a true CB1. But they're kind of well rounded. They don't have a ton of like, oh crap, they're bad there. They have a lot of like, okay, they're all right, but they don't have any true holes. And like, I think that's what they did a very good job of in the offseason, was not necessarily trying to go after elite talent, although they did pay Milton Williams. They just did a great job of just plugging holes and raising the floor of every position on their roster. So they really didn't have one that was holding them back.
Yeah, and like I said, Elliott Wolf deserves a lot of credit, and Robert Kraft nailed the head coach hire. Mike Vrabel is one of the best head coaches in the league, and he has shown that at every stop. Every stop he's been, he's shown that he can elevate mediocre talent to the best of their ability. All right, let's go to the NFC side. Some were saying that this was the real Super Bowl between the Seahawks and the Rams. I would argue, as a matter of fact, I wouldn't argue. I would just flat out say these were the 2 best teams in the NFL this year, and they've showed it on all 3 occasions. 3 great games between them. The Rams win the first one. Despite Sam Darnold throwing 4 interceptions in week 11, the Rams squeak out a win. Then they had that insane game in week 16, where the Rams looked like they had it in the bag. And I'd argue, I'll get back to this, I'd argue the Rams lost the NFC Championship on that game, because they were never the same team after that game. They never were. And Seattle comes back and wins. Rashid Shaheed returns a punt. They have that insane 2-point conversion. And of course, Darnold leads them down the field in overtime, and then they get the 2-point conversion to win the game. And then this week, I mean, we got to say it. The Seattle Seahawks won this game because of Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was the biggest question mark for me with this team throughout the year, because, first of all, as I said, I was very low on them going into the season because I didn't trust their offensive line. I thought their offense in general would be really bad. And I thought they were playing in a tough division because obviously the Rams are really good. The Niners just, despite their injuries, were still really good. If they were healthy, they may have been like cream of the crop in the league. And I expected the Cardinals to be at least be a respectable team. But they proved me wrong. And throughout the first half of the season, I viewed the Seahawks team similar to the Vikings last year, where they are a good regular season team, but once the playoffs start, you can't really take them seriously, and they're going to go home and nobody's going to remember them. I think the game where I really viewed them as a team that, wow, they can actually go to the Super Bowl was that Thursday night game. Them coming back, them staying in it, them finding a way to win that football game against all odds. Because that game essentially clinched them the one seed. They beat the Panthers, they beat the Niners. And once you get the one seed, it's like, okay, this team obviously is a legitimate shot. So they are a team that proved me wrong. A lot of people wrong. A lot of people did not view the Seahawks as a real contender going into the year. And look, they are, by every account, that they were the best team in football this year. They are a deserving Super Bowl participant. But we got to talk about Sam Darnold because, like I said, you and I were skeptical of him in the offseason. We thought, okay, last year he played really well, but how much of that was Kevin O'Connell? How much of that was Justin Jefferson? How much of that was the offensive infrastructure in Minnesota? And then the first half of this year, he shut us up quickly. He was exceptional the first half of the year. I would argue through the first 6 to 8 weeks of the year, he was the best quarterback in football. And then the second half of the year came and not so good, but the Seahawks were still winning games in spite of it. And we're like, yeah, the Seahawks won, but Sam Darnold, kind of a shaky performance, that might come back to bite him. And in the divisional round, they kind of got an easy draw with a Niners team that was really, really out of gas with all the injuries. And in this NFC Championship game, it's like, okay, if the Rams can force Sam Darnold to beat them, I like their chances. And Sam Darnold beat them. Sam Darnold was the best player on the field on Sunday. He was exceptional. He converted a bunch of third downs. He made difficult throw after difficult throw. He threw 3 touchdowns. Both he and Stafford were excellent. And I think Darnold outplayed Stafford on a game where Stafford was great. And the big difference was possession downs. Darnold was awesome on possession downs, and Stafford didn't complete a pass on possession downs. And that was one of the biggest differences in this football game. So I this is one of the wildest career turnarounds that I have ever seen from an NFL quarterback. A guy who went to the worst organization in the NFL. His development there was terribly stunted. Goes to Carolina, plays poorly, becomes a backup, goes to Lucas's hometown Vikings. And before we get to this, prayers to Lucas and everyone in Minnesota through this difficult time that they're going through right now, and hope that this country can find its way once again, because a pretty embarrassing, pretty low point in this country, and we knew that. We knew this. Everyone, every smart person knew this would happen in November of 2024. Not to get political, it's not surprising, but it doesn't make it any easier. So, you know, I don't know if we can do 3 more years, but it's just you. All you can do is pray and hope for the best, and hope that we can find our way once again, and find real leadership in this country once again, because we don't have it right now. All right, anyways, we got very political there. Some people might not like that, but I don't really care. Who watches this anyways? So back to Minnesota. He goes to Minnesota and has a really good year, but we're still skeptical. Obviously, ends the season really poorly, and now he's the reason this team's in the Super Bowl, because they would not have won that game on Sunday if Sam Darnold didn't play at his absolute zenith. And here they are, and they're one game away from immortality. So kudos to Sam Darnold. It shows that good coaching, good infrastructure, and a strong work ethic can really bring the best out of a talented player. Still just 28 years old, by the way, really young player, still. And he's got a long career ahead of him. So it shows that where you land matters, and once you find the right situation, you can thrive. So I apologize to Sam Darnold. I was wrong about him. I didn't believe him in the offseason. I thought last year was a fluke. I thought he would hold this Seahawks team back from reaching the Super Bowl, and it turns out he's the biggest reason that they're there. So kudos to Sam Darnold. You deserve all the credit in the world, and one game away from etching your name in NFL history.
Yeah, I was wrong about Darnold. I didn't think this fit in Seattle would work that well, and I was dead wrong. Kudos to him. Like, I thought he was a product of the system in Minnesota last year. That was not the case. I had the opinion that the Vikings should pick one of Darnold or McCarthy. I didn't care which. And so the fact that they let Darnold walk in favor of McCarthy, I wasn't upset with. Hindsight's 2020. It's easy to say it now, but in the moment, you got to remember Darnold played like shit the past two games, his last two games
He
in
did.
Minnesota.
He
So you
did.
got to remember the context. But let's focus on his Seattle days. Seattle just has. You got to give Mike McDonald and John Schneider all the credit. Like I think
Yeah.
I forgot who said it first, but like John Schneider is like the first general manager in NFL history to make the Super Bowl two times with the exact same team, but have no players from his previous Super Bowl trip.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. Like there's no question John Schneider is probably the most important player on this team, or like not player on this team,
Important part.
probably the
Yeah.
most important person, important part of this organization. Like common denominators. John Schneider. That's it. The owner's different because Paul Allen passed away a couple years ago. Head coach is different. Everyone else is different. Maybe save for people who work in the box office, but like you got to give credit to him. He built a strong team. I honestly didn't think they were that talented, but at the same time, they have enough star power. Darnold's playing well. Jackson Smith and Jigba is a star. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, before Charbonnet got hurt, were a great running back duo. They weren't necessarily loaded with talent. They're almost like a slightly better version of the Patriots, in which they don't have any true flaws in the roster, but they got a lot more high-end players, but not a lot of true superstars. And they're a team that has an identity, and they play for their coach, and they're always prepared. Like I think that's one of the main reasons why. Like I don't think they're a team that's like, oh crap, they have a great quarterback and just a ton of star power. Not really. They're a very well-rounded team with enough star power, a really good quarterback, and they're well coached, and that's equals a team that can easily go to the Super Bowl, and they did. They won their first playoff game by 1,000,000,000 points, and they beat a Rams team who I thought was the best team in the NFL until Sunday evening. So full credit to Seattle. They're 4.5-point favorites about in Super Bowl 60. We'll see, but I have a lot of hope for them, but they got to play the games for a reason. But full credit to Seattle. They surpassed my expectations.
Yeah, a lot of people's expectations. And they're here, and they deserve to be favorites. I think they're the better team. Uh, like, like the Seahawks, like comparing them to like last year's Eagles team. Like last year's Eagles team was just like superstar. Like they were like this all-star team. Like they were like the Monstars in Space Jam, and they won the Super Bowl off that just by being more talented by everybody else than everybody else. This Seahawks team is talented. Don't get me wrong. They have a lot of really good football players, but I think it's just more of like they just play their brand of football to their absolute best. Like their running game with Kenneth Walker is excellent. Smith and Jigba is, has been the best receiver in football this year. Has developed into one of the premier receivers in the league. And Darnold deserves a lot of credit for that as well. Because Darnold has utilized him better than Geno Smith did. Their offensive line has surpassed, while not great by any metric, has surpassed expectations. It went from an awful unit to a respectable unit, a unit that you can function with. And their defense just is so well coached. They know their roles so well. They drafted well. They draft Nick Eamon-Wari. They trade for Ernest Jones. They trade for Leonard Williams. They signed DeMarcus Lawrence. They draft Byron Murphy. Like they filled the holes on this team. Devin Witherspoon was a great pick in the first round in 2023. Like John Schneider has done an absolutely exceptional job of building this roster, and he got a lot of criticism, including from me last offseason for trading Geno Smith and getting rid of DK Metcalf, and he knew what he was doing. One thing about John Schneider, he knows when to move on from team pillars. He moved on from Russell Wilson at the perfect time after 2021. He moved on from Pete Carroll at the perfect time, and he moved on from Geno Smith at the perfect time, and it's really paid its dividends. And you mentioned Mike McDonald. Mike McDonald, I would argue, I don't want to succumb to recency bias because it is a small sample size. He's one of the best coaches in the NFL, and it's not even close. His defensive scheme is one of the most advanced and sound that I've seen in quite some time. And we really saw it in 2023 with the Ravens when they won the Triple Crown defensively without really any great pass rushers. I mean, they did it just because they were so well coached. And he is a culture changer. He is a guy that you can tell they play for him. And it just goes to show like what a great coach can do to a franchise. Like if the Seahawks had, if they had their level of roster, but with like a league average or slightly above league average coach. I don't know if they are where they are. Like, I think they're a decent team. I think they're a playoff team, but they're not a Super Bowl team without a coach like Mike McDonald, who just brings the absolute best out of all of his players. When you look at that Ravens team, a lot of those players were never the same after he left. He got the best out of them, and he's doing the same here in Seattle. And look, they knew what they were doing by getting Sam Darnold. And if you're the Vikings, you got to be sick. And I get the last couple games not great. It's a guy who won 14 games for you last year. He deserves all the credit in the world for turning his career around, betting on himself, just staying true to who he is. And now he's a game away from being a Super Bowl champion. So look, this Seattle team, one game away. They're a favorite for a reason. And we're going to look back. I think if they win the Super Bowl, I think history is going to look back really fondly on the Seahawks team that really overcame, low preseason expectations. Nobody really believed in them. It was like, oh, the Rams are better. Oh, the Niners are better. And here they are. I mean, they're one game away from the Lombardi. So it should be a great game. Like I said, rematch of Super Bowl 49 with a whole new cast of characters. I'm excited to watch it. Lucas and I will preview it next week. Let's talk about the Rams, Lucas, because this is a team that you and I were obviously very high on for good reason. Like, they were a really good team, but you can't help but feel like this is a significantly missed opportunity for this Rams team. And I don't want to say they underachieved because, like, that's unfair. Like, you go to the NFC Championship game where you're one of the last four teams standing. Saying you underachieved is kind of, terse in my opinion. But I do think this team didn't get to where it could have gone. I think this team was capable of so much more than losing in the NFC Championship game because I think this team was capable of being better than a 12-5 team that didn't win their own division. And I like Sean McVay a lot, but I also think Sean McVay had some questionable moments throughout the year and in this game. I thought Sean McVay's play calling in this game was exceptional. I thought he was awesome as a play caller. I thought his game management and his decision making left a lot to be desired. And when you look at this Rams team throughout the year, they're up 26-7 against Philadelphia and they lose. They're playing Mac Jones at home and they lose. And of course the most notable one was that debacle in week 16. And like I said, that game really altered the trajectories of both of these team seasons. I think if the Rams held on to win this game, they're playing next Sunday and Seattle's the team going home. That game really kind of propelled Seattle into a greater belief like, oh my gosh, we can do this. We can go all the way. And it really kind of affected the Rams in a negative manner because they go out next week. They lose to a very mediocre Falcons team. They're trailing against a god-awful Cardinals team in week 18. And then in the playoffs, they nearly lose to Carolina. And then they barely squeak by a Bears team that we agree like was good, but not great. And they only scored 20 points against a not good defense. In this game, like they played well offensively, but their biggest Achilles heels throughout the year were their secondary, their passing defense, and their special teams. And both reared their ugly heads. So, look, the Rams were a really good team. I enjoyed watching them, but if you're a Rams fan, you got to feel like, man, Matthew Stafford threw 46 touchdowns to 8 interceptions this year, played out of his mind. And what do we have to show for it? And he's going to be 38 next year. Who knows how many more great years he has? So, like, it was a good year, but you got to look back. You can't help but feel like this is a huge missed opportunity to win a second Super Bowl in 5 years.
Yeah, this was a letdown if you're a Rams fan. Like, I understand this regime already has a Super Bowl, but this is probably their last best chance. I mean, I picked the Rams to miss the playoffs this year only because I did not trust Stafford's health. And not only did Stafford stay healthy, he was amazing the entire season, the entire regular season. So the fact that this team could not go to the Super Bowl is just devastating. I thought Stafford played pretty well on Sunday for the most part. Like, he had his moments, but I don't think Darnold played that well either. Like, I thought he was clutch. He made like the right plays. Yeah, I didn't think Darnold was that good. Like, I thought Darnold was clutch, and which is what you want in a quarterback. You rather have a quarterback be clutch than like great start to finish. But I thought Stafford played fine. The problem is the Rams just didn't make the plays. Seattle did. Like, I think the drop, was it by Parkinson or Ferguson?
Parkinson on the third down. That was a killer. I mean, he would have scored. He would have.
That would have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
He has, like, I understand it's not the easiest catch because he was kind of like screened a tiny bit, but like, dude, you got to catch that. Like, come on, bro. Like the Rams are probably going to the Super Bowl if they win that game or he catches that ball. But if not, like they have a very strong chance. There are a lot of debates about Sean McVay. I think he deserves criticism. Like if you want to consider Sean McVay a top 1 to 3 coach in the NFL, he has to take accountability when he deserves it, and he deserves to take accountability here. And he will. He's a good leader. I'm not going to talk about like maybe the biggest decision. I'm going to talk about the last big decision where they were down, what was it, like 31-27? Yeah, 31-27.
Yeah, it was the final score. They're down 4. Yeah.
Yeah, and they tried to go for it. A lot of people said kick the field goal. I thought that was objectively the correct decision to go for it. Like it would have been like Matt LaFleur kicking the field goal against the Bucs in that NFC Championship game. Like I understand the argument of, okay, well, if they kick the field goal and they get the ball back, they only need a field goal. And I know at the very end, like they technically had the ball, but at the same time, like that wasn't a real possession. So I don't blame Sean McVay there. At the same time, this is another game where his team just got off to a slow start. Like it was in Seattle. Like I didn't quite say it on last week's show, but I should have clarified that the Rams needed a hot start in this game. Like
and they didn't get one.
They didn't get it. Like they were always playing from behind. They were down. They never led a single time. Oh no, they did. They led in the second quarter. Sorry, I misread the game chart, but yeah, they got off. They were down 10-3, so they fortunately did get the lead back, but they did allow Seattle to basically double dip. Like that was perfectly executed by Mike McDonald, Clint Kubiak. They actually no, I'm a liar. I'm a dirty liar. They did not double dip because they scored a touchdown at the end of the first half, but then they punted to start the second half, and then that was the muffed kick that like the Rams kicker, I forgot, or returner, who was it? It was Xavier Smith.
And I'll get to that. Can I get to that? Can I touch on that? So
very quickly. Give me 5 seconds. Give me 5 seconds.
Sure.
Yeah. So muff the kick, and they get back to back, and they score a touchdown immediately after. That sequence changed the game. You're going to talk about it. That muff punt was the single biggest difference maker of who won this game. And go off, King.
Okay, so earlier in the game, first of all, that guy should not have been back there. Why is a 5th string wide receiver who nobody knows who he is? Why is that guy your punt returner? That is on Sean McVay. And earlier in the game, he dropped a punt and he recovered it. So it's like, okay, he dropped a punt, but we were lucky to get it back. But maybe we should put someone else back there. Nope, they stick him right back out there, and boom. Seahawks get the ball, they score a touchdown, 7 points in the game, they lost by 4. That is on Sean McVay. And a big theme throughout Sean McVay's career is their special teams have sucked regularly. And to me, bad special teams units, people blame the special teams coordinator. I am of the belief that bad special teams units are on the head coach because they just don't care. Like, how many games did the Rams special teams cost them this year? Week 3 against Philly. They're lining up to kick a game-winning field goal, gets blocked. They lose. Week 5 against the Niners. I believe they missed an extra point and they missed a field goal. They lose the game. Seattle in week 16, a game that really altered. I am of the belief if they held on to win that game, they would be playing the Patriots on Sunday because they would have been the 1 seed. If they won that game, the NFC Championship is in SoFi, not Seattle. And they failed to win. What was the big turnaround? They allow a punt return to get Seattle right back in the game. That was it. Like, if they just like cover the punt, they likely win the game because Darnold was seeing ghosts. By the way, Darnold playing the team that he saw ghosts again. Perfect. Well done, script writers. Nicely done. Nice job. But they allow a punt return to Rashid Shaheed, and that completely flipped the momentum of the game. And then this game, like you're sticking an inexperienced player, a guy who really doesn't have a big role in the team, back to return punts. He's already looked shaky on punt returns, and you stick him back out there. Like that, to me, Sean McVay needs to wear. And I think the Rams defense, I thought was pretty putrid in this game. I mean, I thought they gave up multiple third downs. They struggled to get off the field. Matthew Stafford playing the way he has. I mean, Matthew Stafford against the Seahawks this year, the 2 games in Seattle, threw for nearly 700 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, and they lost both games. That to me is on the defense. That to me is on the special teams. And ultimately, that to me is on the head coach for failing to address a special teams unit. That is the biggest reason why this game was in Seattle and not SoFi.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Sean McVay has to eat some accountability in this game. And overall, he's a great coach. He's a great motivator, great offensive play scheme designer and play caller. But just too many screw ups that are on him. He's the head coach. The buck stops with him. I would still want him as head coach of the Chiefs if Andy Reid were to retire, but at the same time, like, he's not perfect.
No,
Like,
he's not.
He has his warts, but too bad, so sad if you're the Rams. You had a great year, but at the same time, you underachieved. Like, if I knew Stafford was going to be healthy for every game this season, they would have been my easy NFC pick to go to the Super Bowl, maybe even win. And they were to start the playoffs, but too bad, so sad. That's why they play the games, and you should not have lost that Thursday night game. You had no business losing.
Yeah, and like I said, that game really affected both these teams' seasons. Seattle in the positive way, the Rams in the negative way. The bottom line is, if Stafford had the best quarterback season, one of the best quarterback seasons I've seen in quite some time. Like, he was exquisitely good this year, and you were a wild card team, and that really, it really is disappointing. And for Stafford, like a guy who's going to turn 38, who knows how many years he has left. He has won a Super Bowl, like he always has that in his back pocket. But winning 2 Super Bowls really would have elevated him to some really great discussions in terms of quarterbacks. And you got to be wondering, like, will I ever get that? Will I get that second Super Bowl? And this was a great opportunity to do so. And they fell short. And Seattle's going, and the Rams are going home for the reasons that really plagued them throughout the year. So, all right, that wraps up the conference championship weekend. 2 more teams go home. New England and Seattle will head to Santa Clara on Sunday, and of course, face off on February 8th. Well, Lucas and I are going to discuss some other headlines around the league. There's 2 more head coaching positions that have been filled. One of them we react to live on Saturday. That was Mike McCarthy being hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've actually come around to this a little bit. Like, I don't love the hire, but I don't hate it as much as they did at the time. And then today, Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills, has been promoted to their head coach position. So we'll start with McCarthy. Lucas, you and I reacted to it live. I've thought about it. He had his introductory press conference today, and well, I think this move is uninspiring. I understand it to some degree because this coaching pool really isn't outstanding. Like, it wasn't as great as last year's coaching pool or the 2024 coaching pool that produced Mike Macdonald and Jim Harbaugh, like guys of that regard. Mike McCarthy is a floor-raising head coach who has won a lot of games everywhere he's been. Obviously, he's won a Super Bowl. Um, he's a guy who the Steelers, as annoying as it is, even for someone who's not a Steelers fan, they're a team that wants to be competitive. They are a team that wants to have a chance to get in the playoffs and take their chances there. They don't want to be bad. And I get being bad sucks. But that's a prideful organization. That's like, we don't this a 4-12 season, or a 4-13 season, a 6-11 season is not acceptable for this franchise. And Mike McCarthy is too good of a coach for that to happen. So I get why they hired him. I like McCarthy. He seems like a great guy. Everyone who interacts with Mike McCarthy says he's like the best human being ever. I think he's a solid coach. I actually think he's a good pretty good offensive play caller, good quarterback developer. We'll see what they do at quarterback, whether they bring Rodgers back, whether they try to develop Will Howard. So we'll see if they try to make some trades. That's a big question mark, but I think it's an uninspiring hire, but it's an understandable hire. I think McCarthy will pretty much keep them where they've been, which is not great, but it's a team that really takes pride in not being bad. And I think Mike McCarthy is a good enough coach to prevent being bad.
Yeah, I just don't like the hire. I get it. He's from Pittsburgh, and he was emotional in that press conference.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell he genuinely wanted to be the coach, so I'm not going to criticize him. At the same time, like, this was not the opportunity for the Steelers to go for a hire like this. I understand he's a Pittsburgh guy, and they know what they're getting, but the Steelers were a team that they needed to make they needed to make a radical decision. Like, they could have gone for some they could have gone for someone who's like off the beaten path, like a surprise pick, and I would have respected it more than the Mike McCarthy hire. Like, even if they went Davis Webb, like, I thought Davis Webb would have been a bad hire. Like, I would have respected them for at least going for the home run shot. But they're just gonna go for the single. Go for the single. That's been their drafting philosophy, that's been their team building philosophy, been their coaching philosophy. I guess they're just content with being 9-8, 10-7, and just being a wild card loser every year. And that's just who they are. That's who they are. That's who they're always going to be.
It's frustrating.
And next year would have been the year to tank, because I think I think there were going to be multiple great quarterbacks in the top 5. If not, more blue chip talent in next year's draft than this year's draft, but the Steelers just they're more afraid of being irrelevant than they are of winning, which is not a very that's a very toxic trait if
Mm-hmm.
you're a sports team. Like the one thing I'm terrified of with like the Minnesota Twins on my favorite baseball team is they're more afraid of like being irrelevant than they are being great. Like in the
Yeah.
sense like
Yeah.
they don't want to risk it for the biscuit. It's a very bad trait to have. Like I want teams to go for like even if they don't work out, I'll take it. Like you went for the swing. I can respect you being aggressive. Mike McCarthy would have made sense for a team that's like looking for like stability and or like just
Titans, the
like
Raiders, something of that ilk.
Cardinals maybe
Yeah.
Browns. Like they need some competency and guarantee. The Steelers were not that team. They've already been suffering from eternal mediocrity. They needed a home run swing. If I knew they were going to hire McCarthy, you might as well just keep Tomlin. I just don't see the point. But
Yeah. Well, Tomlin left on his own accord, and Rooney said that he would have kept Tomlin. Yeah.
I mean, technically, I don't know if that's true. That could have been a situation where, like, hey, we'll allow you to leave on your own accord and under your power, but like, we're not planning on keeping you around. Maybe they just said that to make Tomlin look better, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, I mean, in
Yeah.
hindsight, it's Tomlin would have been a better player or better not better player, a better option than McCarthy, but I just don't like the hire, man. It's not that
Yeah.
McCarthy's
No,
bad.
I
It's
don't
just
love
like
it, but
what's
I
the
don't hate it.
ceiling?
I don't
What's
hate
the
it. I don't.
ceiling?
Yeah, there is a ceiling with McCarthy. I think McCarthy, when he was younger, I think was a coach that you could legitimately win a Super Bowl with, as he did. Like he's a coach, like he is a ceiling raiser. I don't think he's that kind of coach anymore. He is a floor raiser. He did win. He did go 12-5 every year. Dak Prescott was healthy in Dallas, and actually like kept them somewhat competitive with Cooper Rush his last year in Dallas last season. Um, so I understand it, but I don't love it. I give it like a C. McCarthy is not a C coach. I think he's like a B to B plus coach, but the fit here is a C. But I like it more than you do because I do think I am a Mike McCarthy fan. I think he's a really respected coach in the NFL, but I think he would have been better somewhere else. But we'll see how it works and we'll see what they do at quarterback. All right, this one, I think you and I will agree on this one, Lucas. The Buffalo Bills today, they promote Joe Brady, their offensive coordinator, to be their head coach. I have a question for this. Why? Why? Like, why is this the move? Like, look, I have nothing against Joe Brady, but I think it's very interesting how in the press conference that we ripped to shreds last week, Terry Pagula basically said, not word for word, but like, man, our idiot coaching staff is the biggest reason why we drafted this bum Keon Coleman. Brandon Beane is GM Jesus and had nothing to do with it. Let's promote a guy who was on the coaching staff and coached the side of the ball that Keon Coleman played. Like, what? It just, I don't know. I feel like Josh Allen had a lot of say in this decision because everything that I can sense is that Josh Allen and Joe Brady have a pretty strong relationship, but I don't see Joe Brady as the coach who's going to take this team to the next level, especially if Brandon Beane continues to draft the way he's been. Like, if you're going to promote Joe Brady, you might as well have just kept Sean McDermott. Like that's the way I see it. I don't know. I think similar to McCarthy, it's uninspiring. Like I thought Brady was a decent offensive coordinator, but not like he wasn't an offensive coordinator that I look at and say, oh my God, like that guy's gonna be a great head coach someday, like a Ben Johnson or a Kyle Shanahan when he was in Atlanta, or a Clint Kubiak in Seattle this year. Like I just thought he was a decent offensive play caller. But I don't see him as a guy who's gonna help this team win a Super Bowl. I just don't. Like he's young, I get it. But I thought this was I just the process here to me was very flawed in my opinion.
Yeah, like we blame our coaching staff. Let's hire the number two guy in charge of that
Pretty
coaching staff.
much.
It's just like what's the difference? Like I don't think the culture is going to change that much. Like when was the last time like an assistant took over for a coach in a firing like this? Not like a retirement, but like a firing where an assistant took over and like it worked out better. Like maybe there's an example. I can't think of one. Like it's happened before in terms of hirings like this, but like when do you say it's worked out? I just think like
No.
again like if this is going to be the hire, I wouldn't have moved on. Similar to Tomlin, like and McDermott was straight up fired. Like
Yeah, he
I don't have
was.
I don't have a problem with firing McDermott. I do have a problem with just firing him and not firing Bean, and I have a double problem with not firing Bean, firing McDermott, and then hiring Joe Brady, who is a pretty it's pretty much going to be the same culture, if not worse, because I know Sean McDermott's a somewhat good leader. Shout out 9/11 for him. But like, I don't know if Joe Brady can lead. I don't know if Joe Brady's the leader of men. We'll find out. But I just don't see it. I mean, unless maybe there's a situation where Sean McDermott really is a menace when it comes to drafting, and like he was the problem, and maybe Joe Brady's better. But like, the odds of that being true are not strong. I don't like this hire. I'm going to give it like a C. It's not like a train wreck by any means, because technically Allen did win an MVP under Joe Brady, but like, are we really going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, Joe Brady was the right hire? Like, I doubt it. And if we're looking back in 2 to 3 years.
I think that MVP was more a product of Allen being a great player than it was Brady being this innovative offensive mind, in my opinion. And Bills fans had a lot of qualms with Joe Brady's play calling. They felt he was too conservative at times. They felt he ran too many wide receiver screens. They felt his running scheme was a little uncreative. So we'll see what happens. I assume he'll keep calling the plays. But like I don't have a lot of confidence in this one. I just I think McDermott was a good coach who couldn't get him over the hump. Like why is Joe Brady going to be the guy to do that? But we've been wrong before. God damn it, the Seahawks proved that. So we'll see if we're wrong again. Bills fans certainly hope that we are. All right, I'm going to turn my screen off here for a little bit. But there's another thing we got to talk about, Lucas, and that is the Pro Football Hall of Fame made a very, very controversial decision today, and that is Bill Belichick. Yes, Bill Belichick, the coach who won 6 Super Bowls as a head coach, was not elected a first ballot Hall of Famer, which just sounds mind-boggling to me. Like the NFL has a precedent of if you accomplish enough, you're getting in the Hall of Fame on the first chance. Like this isn't the MLB who basically, they choose who they like and they don't. Belichick, obviously 6 Super Bowls as a head coach, 2 Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator, viewed as maybe the greatest head coach in NFL history, the greatest defensive mind in NFL history, is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Lucas, you can go off on a tangent here because when I saw this, I couldn't believe it. Like, what are they using against him? Are they using Spygate? Are they using Deflategate? Are they using his career without Tom Brady? Like his career in Cleveland? Like, what is it? The way I see it, he is at minimum, the 3rd best coach in NFL history, if not better. And he has to wait a year to get in the Hall of Fame. I really don't understand this at all. Lucas, go off.
This is the wrong decision. There's no question about it. I have 2 theories. I think you mentioned it because you were cutting off on my end. But first one is there are voters that just simply will punish him for the cheating scandals, the alleged or whatever you want to call them, like Spygate, Deflategate, stuff like that. They're just punishing him for that, and they're going to make him wait a year, kind of like they did with Terrell Owens because they didn't like him as a character. Other one is maybe they just I have 3, I guess. The second one is they just didn't like him personally, and they're similar with Terrell Owens. They just wanted him to make him wait, which I think is dumb. Number 3 is, I think is probably the dumbest, is almost a situation where I'm surprised it doesn't happen more in other sports where voters just assume someone's going to get in and they don't vote for him because they want to give their vote to someone else. Like it's almost called like the witness or like it's whatever, like a scenario where like someone's in trouble and there are like a bunch of people around, but no one calls 911 because they assume someone else is going to do it. It's almost like that for Hall of Fame voting. Like I guess enough of the 50 voters just thought, oh, everyone else is going to vote for Bill Belichick. I'm going to reserve my vote for someone else so more people get in, have a higher chance of getting in, but maybe that backfired. It might be a combination of all of them, but no matter what, this is the wrong decision. I understand Bill Belichick wasn't a perfect coach, but he won 6 Super Bowls as a head coach. I don't care if you think Brady was the main reason why. I don't give a fuck. He won 2 Super Bowls. Like, if it was a quarterback who was clearly carried to 2 rings, I would still say that quarterback is a Hall of Famer. That's a big achievement. His defenses were a big reason for at least 4 of the Super Bowls, if not 5. There's only 1 year where you can maybe say the defense was like not the main reason why they won the Super Bowl. At the same time, I don't really care. You can make an argument his defense had a big role in all 6. The first 3, 2018 for sure, when they beat the Rams and held them to 3 points. And then 2016, that's probably the 1 year you could argue against it. 2014, that defense made plays. Bill Belichick deserved to be a Hall of Famer. Not a perfect guy, not a perfect coach, but if Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Fame as a coach. No one is. I'm not happy. I wouldn't be happy if I was a Hall of Fame voter because I would just feel embarrassed. Maybe I don't, to be fair, we don't know how many votes he lost by because I know people say all voters lose their credibility. He needed to get to 80%. So he probably got 38, 39 votes. I'd be shocked if he got like 35 or below. He probably just got 38, 39, and just a couple people didn't vote for him purely because they thought enough people would. So they just saved their vote for other people, and that was a big mistake. But I was shocked when I learned that. Like, I didn't even know he was eligible for the Hall of Fame. When you texted me this, I was like, wait, what's happening right now? Because I guess coaches don't have to wait that long, but because I thought he had to wait until like 2028. But so I was surprised by this news on multiple facets. I didn't know he was eligible, and I would not have expected him to be declined, but he'll definitely get in next year. But not getting in this year is a shame. 6-time Super Bowl winning head coach, another 2 rings as a defensive coordinator, arguably the greatest pure defensive coordinator ever that ever became a head coach, greatest defensive mind. Shame. I feel bad for him because I feel like it's embarrassing and he got left out. It's more embarrassing for the voting panel, but there's no reason he shouldn't have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. If he isn't, then no coach is.
Exactly. Like he's the greatest coach of the Super Bowl era. Like, you want to put Vince Lombardi ahead of him, that's fine. I mean, this is a guy, like, if you want to say, for all the people who say he was a Tom Brady merchant, Bill Belichick had a game plan that was in the Hall of Fame when Tom Brady was in middle school. Like, he is, I think, the greatest football mind as a head coach I've ever seen. And that first dynasty the Patriots had, when they beat the Rams and they beat the Panthers and they beat the Eagles, those teams were defensive oriented teams. Like, Tom Brady was still really good, don't get me wrong, but the defense was the biggest reason why that team was so great. And then the second dynasty, sure, like, that was more Brady oriented. They were better offensively then, but their defenses were still really good. Like, Belichick's defenses were routinely top 10 every single year. He always got the best out of all of his players. I just don't understand this. I think a lot of people it's a vendetta because of the Spygate. You know, they didn't like him as a person because he was prickly with the media. I don't care. Like, that should not play a role in who gets in the Hall of Fame or not. But it's a bad look for the NFL that arguably the greatest coach in the history of their sports, in the history of their league, has to wait a year to get in the Hall of Fame. So that's my 2 cents on it. He's going to get in eventually, but I feel like some crotchety sports writers or former executives, Bill Polian, cough, Mr. Lamar Jackson should be a wide receiver, by the way, just had a bone to pick with him because they didn't like him. And that's not how it should go down. So that's my final thoughts on it. And that's my final thoughts on this episode. It is past midnight out here on the East Coast. Lucas, do you have any parting thoughts before we disperse and before we come back next week to preview the Super Bowl?
I do not.
All right, everybody.
Get that sleep.
Thank you very much. And Lucas and I'll be back next Tuesday. Maybe. We'll see. We'll let you know. Thank you. Have a nice day.